I nearly entered rehab yesterday. That is the biggest pile of crap I've ever seen on television in my life.
I want to play you the first of these South Park clips and get you to react.
Kiddo, listen to this. Meghan Markle to join the 11th season of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Ugh, so thirsty for any kind of attention. I would die before I would be on her reality show.
What mother or father in the name of sweet Jesus has enough time to create a fruit plate at 6 o'clock on a Monday morning when there's toast throwing around the room?
It started subtly. Just one missing name. Meghan Markle, a woman who never hesitated to associate herself with powerful, recognizable figures, suddenly stopped mentioning someone who once stood at the very heart of her post-royal transformation.
A taste of entitlement, greed, avarice and deception.
The couple have been begging for privacy, and South Park has done a parody of this, and apparently it has really upset Meghan Markle.
Who just went off on these, what did she call them? Queen's husband was dying, and she went on Oprah and suggested one or both of them are raging racists. She couldn't have cared less. She doesn't care about anyone other than herself.
I'm opening this cylinder now. If you're watching, what a ta-da!
Tyler Perry. Not a whisper in interviews, not a mention in her podcasts, not even a casual nod during staged, polished public appearances. The man who opened his home to Meghan and Harry when they were at their most vulnerable, who reportedly paid for their security, who flew them to safety, who was even named godfather to their daughter, reduced to nothing more than a generic friend.
Oh, we want our privacy and safety, but we'll go be at Beyonce concerts and do whatever we want. Oh, look at him. It's my fox. Oh, yuck. Yuck, yuck, yuck.
For someone so publicly grateful in the early days, the silence was jarring. Meghan, who once held up Perry as a symbol of sanctuary and loyalty, has now carefully erased him from her narrative. Observers noticed. Royal commentators, Hollywood insiders, and even casual fans began connecting the dots. It wasn't a one-time slip, it became a pattern. When recounting the period of her so-called escape from royal life,
if you think about it, Meghan got everything she wanted. She got the husband, she got the children, she got the HRH, she got everything that allowed her to rise up and to have that global recognition that we know how badly she wanted that.
Meghan ruined Harry. Now that the once carefree, fun-loving prince has turned into a miserable moaner, lashing out from the depths of his paranoia at a world he thinks is conspiring against him.
Meghan began referring to the mansion Perry provided simply as a friend's house. She repeated this, word for word, across multiple appearances, as though she'd trained herself not to say his name. And when she showed up at the Paley Center for Media, where Tyler Perry was being honored, she was noticeably absent from his side. She wasn't seated with him. She didn't present.
Oh, shut up. No! I refuse! I'm sick of it!
No, look, Maureen.
I can't.
Look at this.
I can't.
Right, guys, you don't got to do this. Please, I'm begging you to stop.
Meghan, I'm begging you to stop now.
What do you mean the stakes are this high? Who do you think you are? No, I don't want to cook again, Meghan. My God, take a break.
Want respect? Try shutting up.
Some sources even suggested she declined to share the stage during his big moment. For a man who once offered her everything when she had nothing, that kind of public cold shoulder didn't just raise eyebrows, it raised alarms. Was she trying to distance herself before something came out? Because shortly after this carefully orchestrated silence began, a very real storm erupted.
I might watch it in the same way that I turn my head to see a car accident.
It is the cringiest, most uncomfortable piece of tape I've seen in a long time.
These two are now an international embarrassment.
Here's the problem. We don't like you, Meghan Markle.
TMZ broke a report involving deeply disturbing allegations against Perry from a man who once stayed at his Atlanta guest house. The allegations were graphic, unsettling, and instantly became headline news. According to the report, Perry had allegedly crossed boundaries that left the accuser shaken. One incident described a late-night encounter where the guest, reportedly in only his underwear, tried to escape what he described as a groping attempt. Perry's legal team has yet to make a public statement, but online, the reaction was immediate and explosive. And through it all, Meghan Markle said nothing.
This one brilliantly exposes some of the Sussexes' laughable hypocrisy. Watch.
Yes, that's right, friend. You see, my wife and I are totally like, you should write a book because your family's like stupid and then so are like journalists.
No statement, no clarification, no show of gratitude for the man who once risked his own reputation to help her. Nothing but more distance. And the timing? Chilling. Because this sudden shift in Meghan's behavior began months before the TMZ article dropped. Multiple entertainment insiders have claimed that as early as late 2023, Meghan had received private warnings, hints of unsettling whispers surrounding Perry. Almost immediately after that, his name disappeared from her vocabulary. Serena Williams suddenly became her closest friend. Oprah was the guiding light. But Perry, nowhere to be found.
She's apparently spent days being upset and overwhelmed, according to sources, over this parody, which picks apart all of their publicity blitz while at the same time begging privacy.
It wasn't just what she stopped saying. It was how calculated the absence felt. Meghan has built her entire brand on strategic associations. She carefully curates who she aligns with, who appears in her inner circle, and who gets phased out. And yet Perry wasn't just a friend. He was the man who made her transition to California possible. The man who reportedly coordinated her relocation, who provided security when she claimed none existed, who took those late-night phone calls during the peak of the chaos. And now she was scrubbing him out like a typo.
Well, hold on a second. You duplicitous woman. How does that make any sense?
So no amount of humanizing videos, even if she managed to find one, are going to work.
Is she ever going to get to the point where she literally looks in the mirror and goes, nobody's interested in my jam or my life. Nobody likes me. Shut the hell up.
Meghan Markle is trying to kid the world that all is fine.
I think there is now sick, essentially in my mouth. Oh my God, this is horrific.
Not after the scandal, before it. If Meghan really did have advance warning of what was to come, her erasure of Perry wasn't just strategic, it was preemptive. And that raises an even bigger question. What exactly does Tyler Perry know? Because Perry wasn't just helping a friend in need, he was allegedly involved in the logistics of Meghan and Harry's royal exit at a level few people can claim. According to sources close to the situation, Perry may hold crucial information, emails, texts, even voicemails, that detail how certain narratives were shaped, how press strategies were discussed, and how key decisions were made under the radar. We're talking about NDAs, off-the-books arrangements, and financial dealings that never made it into any documentary. If Perry does have that kind of material,
Isn't it true, sir, that your questionable wife has her own TV show and hangs out with celebrities and does fashion magazines? What are you suggesting? Well, I just think some people might say that your Instagram-loving wife actually doesn't want her privacy. How dare you, sir? My Instagram-loving wife has always wanted her privacy!
Any type of flower arranging is just telling a story. What story do you want to tell? Maybe leave the country. Maybe disown your dad. Be creative with it.
his silence is power, and Meghan knows it. Insiders now claim that Meghan is playing a dangerous game, distancing herself just enough to protect her brand while hoping Perry stays quiet. But what happens if he doesn't? What if the man who once protected her now feels discarded, used, or worse, thrown under the bus? Because Tyler Perry has never been known for passivity. While he's built an empire on playing the strong, silent type, those who've worked with him say he does not take betrayal lightly. And one source close to Perry told an outlet bluntly, he's not used to being erased, especially by someone he lifted up when no one else would. If that's true, then Meghan may have miscalculated. Because if Perry ever decides to speak, to really speak, he could shatter Meghan's carefully constructed post-royal image. He could contradict timelines, reveal private conversations, expose inconsistencies between what Meghan has claimed and what actually happened. And it wouldn't take much, just one confirmed detail, one voicemail, one screenshot to unravel the entire house of cards. Meghan's public narrative of victimhood, reinvention, and empowerment could collapse under the weight of one man's truth. And that truth doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be undeniable. The most unsettling part? Meghan's entire brand is already wobbling. The cracks are everywhere. Her podcast is on indefinite hiatus, reportedly dropped after abysmal engagement numbers.
One of the executives came out and said they quite literally have no talent, but worse than that, they don't want to work. Never, ever. Because they don't really know how to make money, right? Their entire brand is talking about their own victimhood. They want them to continue to trash the royal family.
Her lifestyle brand rollout was met with confusion and mockery. Even her long-promised return to Netflix is being quietly downscaled. Multiple sources claim she's barely involved in post-production, that most of the content being cut together is repurposed footage from earlier shoots. She shows up to voice a few lines, give a few notes, and disappear. And the results? Hollow, glossy on the outside, but lacking substance, much like the public image she's clinging to. Even her defenders are retreating. People magazine, once a reliable soft landing pad, has shifted its attention to Princess Kate. Editors have reportedly pushed back against Meghan-centric stories, worried about backlash from readers and advertisers. Within her own team, morale is reportedly in freefall. Staff turnover remains high. PR strategy is no longer about growth. It's about damage control. And behind the scenes, some believe the real reason for the panic is fear. Not fear of the press or the palace, but of the people she's alienated. People like Tyler Perry. Because Meghan may think she's staying ahead of the story. But if she's phasing out Perry because she knows he has receipts, she's not in control. She's on defense. The silence isn't strength, it's survival. And that silence has consequences. When someone erases the very people who helped them rise, they don't just lose allies, they invite scrutiny. Suddenly, every polished podcast sounds performative. Every lifestyle launch feels hollow. Every plea for privacy rings hypocritical. The mask starts to slip. And the biggest question looming over Montecito right now isn't about a podcast or a rosé or a brand refresh. It's this. What happens if Tyler Perry talks? If he decides his silence is no longer warranted? If he chooses to set the record straight or worse, tell the parts of the story Meghan has spent years trying to suppress? Meghan built her entire post-palace brand on the idea that she was silenced, misunderstood, and rescued by friends who saw her truth. But what if one of those friends now feels like the one who was silenced, misunderstood, and ultimately used? Perry was there in the beginning. He answered the calls. He offered the home. He stepped in when the palace allegedly would not. And now, Meghan is pretending he was never there. Not because she forgot, but because she's afraid. Afraid of what he knows. Afraid of what he could prove. Afraid that the man who once carried her narrative might decide to reclaim his own. And make no mistake, if that happens, the fallout won't be a tabloid headline or a brief online uproar. It could be catastrophic. Because Tyler Perry isn't a disgruntled assistant or a bitter ex-staffer. He's a media mogul with global influence, access to the same platforms Meghan once relied on, and a reputation that, up until now, has been nearly bulletproof. If he speaks, the story changes. The tone shifts. The public reevaluates everything it thought it knew about Meghan Markle. This isn't about taking sides anymore. It's about credibility. And for someone who built her new life on the illusion of being silenced, the truth has become the most dangerous threat of all. Because while she continues to pour energy into curated narratives, Instagram filters, and founder journeys, the one man she can't control might be holding the match that burns it all down. And the world is watching.